Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss the frankly increasing levels of frustration that I'm experiencing as a result of the mainstream media not prominently enough reporting on the fact that the worst forewarned consequence of Brexit so far has become stark reality. Our country is literally on fire, and the media seemingly want to help the government distract attention away from it. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So, Northern Ireland, from the point of view of, say, a young lad growing up in a Yorkshire mining village in the 80s, where aggression towards the authorities was not exactly an alien concept, without much in the way of historical knowledge or appreciations of some of the nuances at the time, all I saw was different groups of people hurting their own communities. Then, as I became an adult, we had the Good Friday Agreement. I was 21 years old. Now, since then, there's been the same political argy-bargy, and it's been clear that the resentment remained. But, you know, for people whose hearts aren't filled with hatred and loathing for their fellow man, which is most people, I like to think, they could get on with their lives. Sure, some still wanted grievances aired from time to time, but enough seemed to realise that the path to that just leads to never-ending vicious cycle. Because, you know, before 1998, you might have been forgiven for thinking that we were going to be like the Middle East. The odd ray of hope here and there, only to be dashed whenever some cretinous political leader meddles and sparks the whole thing off again. Then we elected a cretinous political leader, Prime Minister of the UK. That's the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, to give it its full name. But the Northern Ireland part seems to be remembered and forgotten according to the convenience of the Conservatives. You know, when it came to implementing their extreme Tory Brexit, they didn't care about Northern Ireland. It wasn't worth considering. Then, when some Tories realised that Johnson's deal would mean having to apply border rules that preserve the integrity of the EU's single market, well, they took exception. All of a sudden, Northern Ireland was desperately important and they wanted to talk about nothing else. And now, because of their duplicitous meddling with a treaty that was designed to preserve peace in Northern Ireland, parts of it are on fire. You know, and now they're back to ignoring it again. And here's the thing, it's been on fire for a week now, and the mainstream British media seemingly says nothing. It whispers at best. Today, most of the newspapers are running a story about the Oxford vaccine being ruled out for use in the under 30s. Now, when some EU countries talked about doing this, they were blasted as petty and vindictive as part of this, and this pro-Brexit drive in the media. Now that the UK government have cottoned on, not seeing the same accusations levelled at them. But either way, and as interesting a story as this is, even if they don't bother to report apologies for previous coverage, it's not as important as the country being on fire. If there were a forest fire in Australia or California, it would be headline news for at least a day, because it always is. Northern Ireland is on fire. A part of the country represented on the flag they've been shoving down our throats for months now is on fire. Barely a word. The Daily Telegraph has mention of it on the front page. I saw Northern Ireland. Oh, what's that? There is a reference to an article on page 17. Northern Ireland is the real threat to the Union, it says. It's an opinion piece, not news. Not read it, might be fine, might not be. But the point is, most of the front page is taken up with a picture of the Duchess of Cornwall wearing a face mask and an appeal to keep taking the vaccines offered. Now, I would support both of these messages. Ordinarily, I'd be commending them for actually trying to avoid people misinterpreting this AstraZeneca story. But our country is on fire, and that fire isn't going to stop without political intervention. And we're not going to get the sort of political intervention needed unless Boris Johnson is forced into it. He is not naturally inclined towards helping the situation out. He is the one who has basically created the circumstances that led to it. He hasn't even visited. And why aren't the media reporting on it over here? You know, after all, the newspapers love a chance to report on disaster. I remember a quote vaguely now. I think it was from a bishop. I think it was from a Yorkshire bishop. We're full of wisdom, you know. And I can't remember the name though. But it was something like, I always turn to the back pages of a newspaper first, he said. Because on the back are stories of man's triumph. On the front, only our failures. And I wondered if it's because, you know, is it impossible to report in detail, even with heavy political spin, which is what you're going to get in any media, without drawing the link between this and Brexit? It's impossible, isn't it? After all, people know that there were warnings that Brexit would wreck the peace process. They were dismissed. If you start reporting heavily on it, even with your political spin and your blame, people are going to start thinking, well, weren't we warned about this a few years ago? The Good Friday Agreement was finely balanced. Northern Ireland is still home to two roughly equal proportions of the population who have a side. And that side, it tends to be antagonistic with the other. Sectarianism is not universal, but it's still a major enough factor of life that the main political parties represent these sides. The idea of a party emerging to prominence that stands for unity. There are parties, but the idea that they could wield major political power that just stands for unity is absurd right now. And this is what has largely led me to the view that it would be better for Ireland to reunify. I'm not Irish, got nothing to do with me, I've got no real say in it, but just as an observer. Don't get me wrong, I believe fervently in unity is strength. It's my watchword or phrase. And this is why I oppose Brexit and would oppose Scottish independence. But Northern Ireland being unified with the UK means divided from the island of Ireland. You know, being unified with Ireland means divided from the UK. You know, there is no other way around it other than, you know, we revert back to the original UK. I say original UK, the UK with the whole of Ireland. But, you know, that's not realistic, is it? Because people put too much emphasis on what some bellends who've been dead for centuries did, it's the way it is. So you've got these two mutually exclusive options, and they both involve unity and division. So if you have to choose one, I'll just come on the side of the one that might actually work out in the long term. Because partition has been tried for a while now. It's been in place long enough for us to be able to evaluate its success. And it hasn't been successful. But although I say you had one of these two mutually exclusive options with unity and division regardless of what you chose, the Good Friday Agreement sought a third way, at least temporarily, that sort of worked. It was a fudge that only worked because of our joint membership of the EU. Now that we're not members, the strain has become intolerable. And messing about with that fine balance was likely to tip the scales towards one side and away from the other. But with careful management, maybe we'd have gotten away with the worst effects, but we haven't had careful management. And either side in this is not shy about expressing anger if they are not on the winning side of that tilt. So I wondered if the media in Britain weren't reporting on it because of the inevitable discussion about Brexit consequences. That even mainstream media that is anti-Brexit doesn't have it on their front pages, I thought was odd though. Like The Guardian has the story in top headline position on its website, but the front page of the physical print is echoing the same vaccine story as the rest of them. Many of the problems we've got in this country stem from the fact that we do not have a media that speaks truth to power, and hasn't for some years. What is the point of a free press if it will not inform the public without fear or favour? But we don't, and so we can't rely upon them. I had a comment from an Irish viewer yesterday expressing the thought that people in Britain just don't care. I think it's more than just not being informed. As I say, it's not being reported in the newspapers. People don't know about it unless they take the trouble to try and inform themselves. I think people would care a great deal if they were being told of what was really going on. But what they see, if they see anything at all, because you've got to go looking for it, is a group of violent people who have never liked the peace, co-opting children into acts of aggression against their own people. And that's it. They don't see beyond that to the Conservatives who, although they didn't like the match, they built the bonfire and then just stood back. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.